Imagine a world where miracles are possible, where an encounter with the divine could change your life forever. But what if you were told that there was a woman who had a face-to-face encounter with Jesus and, surprisingly, didn't believe it? Yes, what you're about to hear might seem like something out of a novel or a legend, but this is a real story that might challenge your understanding of what is possible. In the time of Jesus, the world was full of rumors about him. Many believed in his power, others in his wisdom, but there were also those who couldn't imagine that a man so ordinary at first glance could be the promised Messiah. But then, something happened that would change a woman's life forever. She was an ordinary woman, from a simple town, who had heard stories about a man named Jesus. She had heard about the crowds that gathered to listen to him speak, about the miracles he performed, healing the sick, restoring sight to the blind, and raising the dead. But to her, all of this seemed too unbelievable. Even in those times of astonishing tales, one day, the woman had an experience that she couldn't explain. She was in a public place when, suddenly, someone approached her. At first, she noticed nothing unusual, but soon she felt a deep presence, one that overwhelmed her. In front of her, appeared a man. He wasn't a stranger, in fact, his face seemed familiar, but what surprised her the most was what he said. This man told her things that no one else knew, deeply personal things that only she and God knew. This man not only knew the secrets of her life, but he also offered her a chance to change her destiny. However, something strange happened. She didn't believe him. How is it possible that someone in the presence of the divine, someone who knows all the details of your life and your most intimate secrets, could still be rejected? How is it that, despite this supernatural encounter, this woman could not accept what was happening before her? The woman felt confused, disturbed, perhaps even frightened. Her mind couldn't process what her eyes were seeing. She decided that, although everything seemed to point to this man being the long-awaited Messiah, it couldn't be. How could someone so human, so simple, so normal, have such power? Maybe it was a deception, or perhaps her mind was playing tricks on her. Yet, the doubt did not disappear, and even though witnesses of her encounter confirmed that she had indeed been face to face with Jesus, she could not accept the reality of what had happened. This encounter is recorded in the scriptures, though, curiously, many don't know it. The woman who didn't believe herself, who rejected the divinity before her, is a reminder of how even the most astounding miracles can be questioned. And this leads us to a deeper reflection. Why do people, even when faced with the inexplicable, choose to reject it? Perhaps this woman was afraid of change. Maybe she wasn't ready to accept what it meant to know the truth. Living a transformed life, in complete surrender to divine power, is a heavy burden for many. It's easier to remain in the familiar, in the known, even if it means rejecting the opportunity to live differently. To be renewed. But the story doesn't end here. What's interesting is how, over time, much can be learned from those who are near the miracles but choose not to believe. They face the truth in a way that few can. They look the divine in the face, and yet choose not to follow it. But the question persists: what happens when the encounter is so direct, so clear, that there's no way you can say it was a coincidence? In real life, there are many people who, just like this woman, face something so great, so divine, that they feel overwhelmed and, out of fear or disbelief, prefer to reject it. And here is where this woman's story becomes a mirror for all of us. The disbelief of seeing the divine before you, the fear of the unknown, can make you reject what you need the most. But how does someone's life change after such an encounter? Is rejection the end, or simply the beginning of something much bigger? The story of this woman, who chose not to believe in Jesus even after such a profound and undeniable encounter, leaves us with a series of questions that challenge our understanding of faith, belief, and the human condition. Why would someone reject something so clearly miraculous? Why would someone turn away from the opportunity to be healed, to be forgiven, to be transformed? The answer may lie in the complexities of human nature. We are, after all, creatures of habit, comfort, and control. The idea of something as radical as a divine intervention, of having your life completely turned upside down, is overwhelming for many. And yet, the choice to reject such an encounter is not necessarily a reflection of the absence of faith. but rather the fear of what accepting that faith could mean. This woman's story is not unique. Throughout history, there have been countless individuals who have encountered something extraordinary, something beyond their comprehension, and yet still chosen to turn away. Whether it's a supernatural experience, a moment of deep personal revelation, or an undeniable sign, people often reject what they cannot control or fully understand. They remain in their disbelief, unsure of how to process the divine or the miraculous. In the case of this woman, her encounter with Jesus was so personal, so intimate, that it left her both awestruck and terrified. She saw a man who knew her inner thoughts, her struggles, and her deepest fears. He offered her the chance to change, to be healed, to embrace a new path. And yet, despite the sheer weight of the moment, she couldn't bring herself to believe. Why? The reasons are complex. Perhaps, in her heart, she wasn't ready to let go of her old life. Perhaps, like many of us, she clung to the familiar, to the life she knew, because stepping into the unknown was too daunting. After all, to accept Jesus as the Messiah meant more than just accepting his words, it meant a complete transformation of her identity. Her beliefs, and her actions. For many, this transformation is simply too much to bear. It requires vulnerability, humility, and the willingness to give up control. The idea that someone else, even a divine being, would have the power to shape your life can be both liberating and terrifying. And so, instead of embracing the change, the woman chose to remain in the comfort of her skepticism, but the rejection of this encounter with Jesus didn't mean that the opportunity was lost forever. In fact, this story serves as a reminder that even when we refuse to believe, the offer of transformation is always available. Jesus' message of love, forgiveness, and redemption is not one that is taken away when we turn our backs on it. Instead, it lingers, waiting for the moment when we are ready to accept it. For this woman, her rejection wasn't the end of the story, it was just the beginning of a longer journey. Maybe, in time, she would come to understand the truth of that encounter. Maybe, at some point in her life, she would experience the awakening that so many others have had when they finally let go of their doubts and embrace the possibility of change. The reality is that the divine doesn't force itself upon anyone. The encounter with Jesus, for this woman, was an invitation, not an imposition. She was given the opportunity to believe, to accept the gift of grace, but ultimately, the choice was hers. And that is what makes this story so powerful. It reminds us that belief is not always easy. It is not always instantaneous. Sometimes, it takes time, reflection, and even rejection before a person is ready to accept the truth. This story also reflects a larger theme in many people's lives, the struggle to reconcile what we believe with what we experience. How often do we find ourselves doubting what we know to be true? How many times do we resist change, even when we know deep down that it is for our own good? The woman in this story serves as a mirror for all of us, showing us the complexity of belief, the power of doubt, and the potential for transformation. At the heart of this narrative is the message that even in the moments of doubt and rejection, the divine remains present. Jesus didn't give up on this woman, and he won't give up on any of us. His love is unconditional, his grace is boundless, and his invitation is always there, waiting for us to accept it, no matter how long it takes. The woman's story may seem like an unusual one, a story of a person who had an incredible opportunity to change her life but chose not to take it. But in reality, it is a story that reflects the struggles of countless individuals who, for various reasons, struggle to believe, to accept the truth, or to embrace change. It is a story that speaks to the human condition, to the way we wrestle with faith, doubt, and the pursuit of something greater than ourselves. In the end, what matters is not whether we immediately accept the divine when we encounter it, but whether we are open to it. Whether we are willing to keep searching, keep questioning, and ultimately, keep seeking the truth. The woman in this story may not have believed in Jesus at first, but perhaps, just perhaps, her story serves as a reminder that belief is a journey that can start with doubt and end in something far more powerful.